Hey guys, and welcome back to another video of mine. Well, ever since I made my Valravn video, I've been thinking to myself, I should do a ranking of all the Cedar Point roller coasters. So, today's the day. I'm going to be ranking all roller coasters at Cedar Point. So, without further ado, here we go. All right, before we get into this ranking, I'm just going to put Wildness Run and Woodstock Express in last place. Why? All right, well, let's be real. These two rides, they're good kids' rides, but the problem is exactly that. They're kids' rides. Not saying that kids' rides aren't bad or anything. They're just kids' rides, So they'll be in last place at numbers 18 and 17, respectively. So let's simply move on to the actual worst coaster at Cedar Point. Number 16. Now, you guys might be surprised at what's in last place. If you know me and my channel, you would probably guess Valravn, right? I mean, I made a whole video talking about how much I hate it. But that's the thing. Even though I personally don't like it, it's not the worst roller coaster at Cedar Point. So, what is? Well, it's Iron Dragon. I know. Some of you are probably even more mad at me now than you were when I made my Valravn video, but let me explain. Iron Dragon sucks because it's boring. There is absolutely nothing interesting about this ride. I could talk about the details of this ride, but why even bother? This ride doesn't have any interesting elements. At least Valravn I can rant about for how terrible it is. But with Iron Dragon, it's so bad. I can't even bring myself to get mad at it. I just pretend it doesn't even exist, which honestly, that's worse than if the ride is bad. Number 15. Alright, next on our list is actually a ride that is similar to Iron Dragon, Corkscrew. Corkscrew is awful because, well, it's rough, it's boring, it adds nothing to the lineup, it's just bad. However, the reason why it's better than Iron Dragon is because at least Corkscrew has some decency here and there. The airtime hill is actually kind of fun, which, while not making up for the awful ride experience, does add a benefit over riding Iron Dragon. Corkscrew is a ride you can hate, it's bad, and it honestly is just better to watch than it is to ride. Number 14. Alright, you know what it is, I know what it is. We were all waiting for this one. It's the dreaded and awful Valravn. I'm not going to say much on Valravn in this video because you already have my Why Valravn Sucks video to watch if you want to know why I hate this ride so much. But for right now, it's boring, lacks forces, the restraints are god-awful, and it's useless. But moving on from that, number 13. Next up on the list is Cedar Creek Mine Ride. What a fall off. Oh my goodness. This ride was so much better a couple of years ago. When I went on it recently this past year, it was horrible. It was so rough and uncomfortable. I don't know what happened here. Although the ride is still better than the ones that I've already listed, mostly because at least this ride still delivers on the lateral G-forces. And the lakeside setting is very pretty, so I guess I'll give it a pass. Number 12. All right. Now we're moving away from the completely buns territory and into the territory. Starting off with the most original name of all time, Wild Mouse. Yeah, for a quick story, I remember where I was when I found out Cedar Point was getting a Wild Mouse. And my exact words were, what the fuck? I mean, they were, oh, come on, Cedar Point. You can do so much better than this. Seriously, a Wild Mouse? You gotta be pulling my leg. Do I look like a clown? Like I'm here to amuse you? No. But seriously, folks, I still can't believe that Cedar Point put in a Wild Mouse of all roller coasters in their park. Especially replacing Wicked Twister. As a ride on its own, this ride isn't that bad. But it might be the most pointless addition to the park. Wait. Never mind. I remember Valravn still exists, unfortunately. I just can't get over the fact that Cedar Point replaced Wicked Twister with the most cloned ride of all time. Whatever. I guess we can move on to the next ride. Number 11. And our next ride, This one might get a lot of people very upset, but it's Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper faces the exact same problem that Valravn does in the form of the awful vest restraints. Seriously, I can't deal with these stupid restraints. Whoever at B&M thought it was a good idea to introduce these restraints needs to be shot into the Oort cloud this instant. Now, you may be thinking, well, Wes, come on. What if we pretended that Gatekeeper has the traditional restraints? Well, to that I say, Gatekeeper would still be pretty bad. The main problem with Gatekeeper is the boring layout. It's really short and generic. Again, much like Valravn, the ride feels more of a gimmick than an actual ride. However, there are some things that Gatekeeper is great at. Unlike Valravn, the gimmick that Gatekeeper presents, that being flying through the gates at the Cedar Point entrance, is great not only in concept, but also in execution. Also, the setting of Gatekeeper is great. With the beachside setting next to Lake Erie, although Gatekeeper isn't the greatest ride at Cedar Point, I would be lying if I said it's bad, because it's not. It is a pretty fun ride, and although the restraints are donkey, unlike Valravn, it doesn't really affect the ride experience that much. Overall, it's a decent ride. Number 10. Next up is Rougarou. This one is interesting as my opinion on this ride has changed a lot since I first rode it. It fluctuates from me loving it to me hating it, and then somewhere in between. Right now, I'm in the it's decent area. My last ride on it wasn't that great, but it was still a lot of fun. I enjoyed the first half of the ride. Unfortunately, everything after the mid-course brake run isn't that great, although not terrible. Rougarou is honestly the definition of a decent ride. Going right up against the pond is a very nice touch, though. Unfortunately, the downsides with this ride are the aforementioned lame second half and also the roughness, which has been steadily increasing since I first rode it. Overall, though, still a good ride. Number 9. Now we're starting to move into the actual great rides. First up is the oddball of Cedar Point, Blue Streak. Why is it odd? Well, it's because it's the only wooden coaster at the park. I guess Cedar Point just saw Kings Island's absolute love of wooden roller coasters and decided to do the exact opposite. Blue Streak is a great ride, though. There are some people who like to claim that it's rough, and those people have clearly never rode Blue Streak in the front row because, man, Blue Streak is so smooth. I was blown away when I rode it last. It was genuinely very smooth. But even if it is a little bumpy, if you look past that, Blue Streak has some of the best airtime in the park. Seriously, the amount of airtime you feel on Blue Streak is crazy. Not only that, but for only going 40 miles an hour, it's the fastest 40 miles an hour on the planet. You feel like you're racing down the track when you're on Blue Streak. Blue Streak, despite its bumps and its simple layout, manages to pack a heck of a punch for such a short ride with tons of airtime. And the short 5-minute wait also helps. You can ride Blue Streak over and over again. It is very re-rideable, and it's just a really fun ride. Number 8. Moving on to our next ride. It's the classic Gemini. This ride is great. There's no two ways about it. Although I do prefer Racer at Kings Island, I've always said this. Gemini is a better racing coaster than Racer, but Racer is a better coaster. Gemini might be one of the most fun coasters to ride with friends. You can go on one side of the coaster, and your friends could go on the other side. But even without the racing element, Gemini is still a very fun ride on its own. It actually has a lot of good intensity and airtime, and the final helix into the station at the end is surprisingly powerful. It's also a lot taller than it appears. Overall, it's a fun ride to go on by yourself, but it's even more fun when your friends are riding with you and you can race with them, especially since when in some parts of the ride, you can actually reach out and touch the other person on the other train. Number 7. With our next ride, this ride is actually fairly similar to the previous mention of Rougarou. Both of these rides feature very similar structures to each other. Of course, I'm talking about Raptor. Raptor is a great ride. It kind of had the opposite effect on me that Rougarou had, in that while Rougarou started off great and slowly got rougher and rougher over time, Raptor started off rough and got smoother over time. My last Raptor ride was fantastic. I thought it was very smooth. and the whole experience was very enjoyable. But that is not the main reason why I love Raptor so much. No, it's the intensity. Raptor might be the most intense ride at Cedar Point. The G-forces you experience in the second half of the ride are insane. Especially that final helix into the brake run, you lose all the feeling in your legs. And I love that, man. The rolls are also extremely whippy, which I enjoy very much. Except for maybe the Cobra roll, but that's probably the only not good thing about Raptor. Overall, Raptor is a fantastic experience and a really fun ride, especially if you're a fan of intensity. Number 6. Now, this next one might be a little controversial, as I know a lot of people really enjoyed this ride for its fast-paced intensity. But I'm putting Maverick in this spot. Now, don't get me wrong, everything from here on out was really hard for me to pick out. Maverick, though, I decided to knock out of the top 5 for one reason. As great as this ride is, not a lot happens on it. If you're a huge fan of intensity, then yeah, this ride will knock your socks off. But other than the intense moments, Maverick doesn't really add much. Now, I want to state that I am in no way saying Maverick's bad, because it's not. It's amazing. It's just not quite as good as the rides in the top 5. Although Maverick doesn't really add anything other than its intensity, honestly, that's all it needs. The intensity of Maverick is insane. The fast-paced whips at the beginning with the mid-course launch sending you over the pond. That launch, by the way, feels so much faster than it actually is. Just like with Blue Streak, it feels a lot faster and crazier than it should. And that little whip going under the first drop is so good. Overall, Maverick is an awesome ride that will leave you breathless. Number 5. All right, now we've moved into the top 5. These are the rides that honestly are near perfect, and in the case of the number 1 spot, are perfect. Starting off with one of the newer rides, Top Thrill 2. Wow, this ride really exceeded my expectations. First, with the restraints, I was really nervous going into Top Thrill 2, as the Intamin T-bar restraints that were on the original Dragster are my favorite restraints of all time, and replacing them with bigger and bulkier restraints really worried me. Fortunately, I can say that the new restraints don't come down on you too much, and you still have a lot of room. So, that's the first thing taken care of. Next, the new launch with LSMs. Now, while the launch is nowhere near as good as the hydraulic launch on Dragster, it still packs a heck of a punch. And the backwards launch is absolutely nuts. Going backwards at around 100 miles an hour really is a unique experience. And with that in mind, going up the backspike vertically is insane. Staring down at the ground is a really terrifying experience, one that I personally was not prepared for. Then you launch up and over the main tower. The most interesting thing about Top Thrill 2, though, is the fact that I thought it would be a better ride in the front row than in the back. I loved my back row ride on Top Thrill 2, because not only do you go higher on the backspike when you're sitting in the back row, but the main reason why the back row blew me away was when you go up and over the main tower. When you're in the back, you get flung over that hump at the top of the tower. And while you get launched out of your seat, the train begins to whip down the spiral on the other side. And what happens is while you're still flying out of your seat, you then get whipped to the right so hard. So you can combine the airtime from the hump at the top and getting flung to the right on the way down. It's just an incredible experience. When I experienced this for the first time, I was blown away. Top Thrill 2 is definitely a worthy successor to Top Thrill Dragster. Number 4. Moving on to the next ride. Jeez, I feel like I've said that a lot in this video. We have another brand new ride, Siren's Curse. What a fantastic experience. First off, Cedar Point actually has a themed roller coaster? What? For those of you who don't know, Cedar Point is notorious for not having any theming on any of their rides. Before Siren's Curse, the best we had was maybe Maverick or Steel Vengeance. But now, we have actual theming, with the station, the queuing, and even the lift hill all being themed. Finally! But moving on from that, Siren's Curse delivers on all fronts. The intensity is great, the airtime is phenomenal, the trains and restraints are comfortable and allow for room, and the ride isn't a one-trick pony. The vertical tilt and drop not only are executed really well, but they actually serve a real function other than the pointless scare tactic that a certain other coaster at the park has. Siren's Curse basically fixed every single issue I had with Valravn, which makes it even more ironic that Siren's Curse is literally directly next to Valravn. It almost makes it look as though Cedar Point is apologizing for their mistake by fixing it with another ride that one-ups it in literally every single way. But seriously though, Siren's Curse is a fantastic addition to Cedar Point, and it is a really awesome ride. Number 3. Alright, now this might be the hottest take of the entire video, but I want to preempt this by saying that number 3 and number 2 on this list were insanely hard to choose which one would go where. But after a lot of thinking, I have decided to put Millennium Force at number 3. Now, this ride is phenomenal. There's really not much I could say about it that I haven't already said. It's just an amazing experience. The setting is great. The airtime is fantastic. It's a long ride and honestly, really fun. It also has the best restraints with the Intamin T-bars. The reason why I put this on the number 3 spot is because although Millennium Force is an incredible coaster, it can be a bit repetitive with the overbanked turns, which don't really do anything. The overbanked turns don't exactly retract too much from the experience, but they are the main reason why I put Millennium Force at number 3. Still though, Millennium Force is an amazing coaster. And come on, it's just a classic. Just make sure that you close your mouth if you're riding in the front row. Seriously though, sometimes those bugs that hit you on the first drop can get to be a bit much. Overall, Millennium Force is fantastic, especially if you like graceful, smooth rides. Millennium Force might actually be the smoothest ride at Cedar Point. For being a coaster that was built in 2000, Millennium is still one of the smoothest rides I've ever ridden. Number 2. All right, it's time for the runner-up. This ride has by far had the biggest improvement, in my opinion, of it. Magnum XL-200. When I first rode this ride, I hated it. I thought it was rough, uncomfortable, and just not good. But I rode it again and again, and now I love this ride. The bumps are still there, but I actually like them. They make the ride more fun to me. And oh my goodness, the airtime on this freaking ride. Those last couple hills provide, dare I say, the best airtime in the whole park. The airtime is so intense that when I rode this with sunglasses, they were almost completely knocked off my face. First off, the station is awesome. I love the futuristic look of Magnum stations, and the trains are so cool. The lift hill is also really good. Because it's slower than Millennium Force's, you can actually appreciate the lift and the view you can get at the top. The speed you feel on Magnum feels a lot faster than it actually is, which, again, is awesome. Of course, though, the second half of Magnum is way better than the first, with those triangular-shaped airtime hills allowing for crazy amounts of airtime. I placed Magnum higher than Millennium because of the fact that although Magnum's layout is very simple, it is never boring, and it will keep you engaged and thrilled the whole time. Magnum is simply an incredible ride, and near perfect. But of course, there is one ride at Cedar Point that isn't just near perfect. No, it is perfect in every single aspect. You know what it is? I know what it is. Number 1, Steel Vengeance. Wow. Just wow. What a perfect coaster. From the day this thing was announced to my first ride on its opening day, I was beaming with excitement. This ride is just pure bliss. From the first couple of bunny hills at the beginning to the brake run, this ride is incredible in literally every single way inconceivable. The airtime is amazing, and there's so much of it. There are literally 6 airtime hills back to back at the end. I actually think I'm addicted to this ride. The dopamine rush that you get from Steel Vengeance is comparable to none. I finally rode Steel Vengeance in the back row this past year, and I'm not even kidding. When I reached the brake run, I was speechless and out of breath. I actually couldn't even think for a moment. My mind was still catching up to what I had just experienced. It was insane. And if you've never experienced this, you need to right now. The intensity, the airtime, the inversions, the head chopper moments when you dive into the structure, the restraints, and the trains as a whole. Literally everything about this ride is perfection. Steel Vengeance is still, to this day, the best roller coaster I've ever been on. Cedar Point knocked it out of the ballpark with this ride. I love Steel Vengeance. And as much as I dislike some of the decisions Cedar Point has made, like the wild mouse or the foam policy, or worst of all, creating this monstrosity, I can never hate Cedar Point because they blessed us all with the greatest roller coaster of all time. I'd go as far as to say that Steel Vengeance isn't a ride. It's an experience. And it's one that, like I said, if you haven't experienced yet, you need to. This instant! Steel Vengeance is pure perfection, and it is by far and away the best roller coaster at Cedar Point. Well, there you go. That was my ranking of all the Cedar Point roller coasters. But anyway, guys, I will see you all in the next video. See ya.